Well, hey everybody, and welcome to the very first show of the new year. I had some computer problems at the beginning of December, and my laptop, I have an older MacBook Pro, fried. And the computer had to be redone, and it was about, to replace this computer with a modern version of what I've got here is about $5,000. So I didn't want to spend that. So I had it repaired. So the computer was out for a couple of weeks. And then we had a Christmas event to go to one Sunday. Then it was Christmas. Then it was New Year. As Andrea said, why don't you just start back after the New Year? And here we are, our very first live show. So thank you very much. And we picked a perfect day to do it because just last night we hit 200,000 subs on the channel. I'm not sure if you saw that, but we just hit 200,000. So from us to you, thank you very much. Andrea and I are thrilled that the channel is growing. People seem to like what we're doing. You're here, and that's always a great thing. So the computer is repaired. Probably 2022 is going to be the year of some upgrades. I think this computer here, our editing computer, probably will need to be upgraded. So we might get some new equipment. Oh, by the way, because of the computer issues I had, a lot of the pictures that you guys sent me are gone. If you can resend any pictures you want to have for the live show, send them to zack@motormouth.ca. That's ZACK at motormouth.ca or ZACK at motormouth.ca if you're south of the border. A couple of other things we want to mention. Don't forget, Canada Drives is one of the sponsors of the channel. If you're looking for a used car, they have hundreds of used cars that you can browse online. You buy it online, and they deliver it to you in a cool truck like that. So that is happening at canadadrives.ca. And then the other one is Car Cost Canada. Car Cost Canada, if you're buying a brand new car, you sign up using the name of the channel, use the promo code MOTORMOUTH, and become an expert member, and it unlocks all of these free searches for you. Find out if there's any deals happening in the market right now. All right, I just want to have a look and see everything seems to be working. Does it sound okay? As I mentioned, a computer had to go and get repaired. All of my settings for the live show changed. So I'm hoping you can type in the chat box there and let me know if it's coming through loud and clear. I checked it all before we went live, and it seemed to be working. Everything going okay? All right, haven't seen anything yet. All right, let's get into your questions. Sunjob is first with his Leafs icon there. Hey, watched the Leafs game last night. Way to go, Leafs. Classic Leafs moment, up 4-1 in the first period, and they lose it in overtime to Colorado. And the reason I'm watching a Leafs game is because the Canucks games have all been postponed. The first game they're going to play back after like a week and a half is against the Panthers on Tuesday. So anyway, enough about the Leafs. Oh, speaking of this, could you make a face-off comparison? Camry Hybrid versus Toyota Accord Sport and Mazda 3 Hatchback Sport. Well, we'll certainly consider it. I have to be perfectly honest with you. The world is moving towards SUVs at a rapid rate, but you're right. We do have to cover cars as well. And we have one this week. We're picking up the Kia Forte, which we haven't driven since the car was brand new. And also we're getting the Ioniq 5 back. If you follow along in the channel, you know we went down to California to test drive in pouring rain conditions. We were only there with the car for one day. Excuse me. And we're getting it back for a week, so we're pretty happy about that. So point taken about the Camry. Hey, Zach, thinking about leasing a 2022 Dodge Challenger Scat Pack. What are your thoughts on the car? Well, first of all, get it while you can because these cars are going to be going away. It's a really nice, it's impressive for such a big coupe that the Challenger is such a nice car to drive. It's built on the old Mercedes from the late 90s, early 2000s E-Class platform when it was Daimler Chrysler. They took that platform, they developed it into the Chrysler 300, the Charger, the Challenger, and it's a really nice driving car. Then you add in the more powerful engine, it just makes it an even better car. It's actually a really nice vehicle to drive. These are going to be going away. It's been announced that they're going to be discontinued and replaced by electric vehicles, so it wouldn't be a bad thing to drive for a couple of years and might even at one time be kind of collectible. Not sure about that. The other thing that a lot of people don't realize is those cars that are made here in Canada, the Ontario facility in Brampton, are at the very highest in terms of quality from FCA, Stellantis, Dodge, Chrysler, whatever you want to call it these days. So yeah, I say if you like it, nothing's stopping you from getting one. All right, everybody's saying it sounds good, loud and clear. Hear us perfectly. Thank you. All right, that's a big relief knowing that the technical side is all worked out. Sam is asking, what are your thoughts on the 2022 Volvo S60 all-wheel drive? You can compare it more to the Audi A4 BMW 3 Series or an A3 2 Series. You should compare it definitely to an A4 3 Series in C-Class. The G70 from Genesis is another good vehicle. Very nice car to drive, very comfortable, fantastic seats, wonderful interior. Super comfortable, very poised, nice all-wheel drive system. So yeah, look at that car. Look at the A4 is another very strong competitor. Yeah, those are the kinds of cars you should be comparing it to. But but the seats and the driving position and the way it drives down the road, it's a very comfortable car. I see the new Silverado EV was announced. The first edition model is north of 100,000 US. What the heck? Who the heck can afford that? And at that price, why not get the Hummer EV? Listen, these car companies have to recoup the huge amounts of money in research and development to make these electric vehicles. So if they can do a first edition and charge the moon for it, and there's people dumb enough to pay it, they'll sell them that car and they'll take that money. And that's exactly what they're doing. If there's people that are so hot to get the very first Silverado electric vehicle and they're willing to pay for it, then sell them it and charge all the money. You see that over and over with first edition vehicles that they seem to charge a lot for them. I don't think it's worth it to buy a first edition of anything. In fact, I would avoid a first edition of something. Get all the bugs worked out, buy it after it's been out for 18 months or 24 months. But there are people with money that want to have the newest and the latest and will spend to get it. And you're right, the Hummer EV, I think you can't even get one. And that's one of the things about all of it. I was thinking about this with all these electric car announcements, whether it's the Ioniq or these new EVs from General Motors. It's going to be the same with the Lyriq from Cadillac. They're all capacity constrained. Like, how many can they make? The one that's going to be interesting to watch for me is when Volkswagen gets their ID4 production up and running in Chattanooga, Tennessee, when they can actually be making these cars in volume. And I heard from Volkswagen that once the factory is up and running, they're going to have more vehicles than there will be demand in the United States, to the point where Volkswagen could then use that factory to export to other parts of the world. We'll have to wait and see. So is General Motors, is Ford going to be able to produce enough of the Silverado EVs along with the Hummers, along with the Equinox EVs? You know, is Ford going to have enough F-150 Lightnings to produce the to supply the demand? I don't know. We'll have to wait and see. Edward Penny, welcome back. Any rumors on when Toyota will come out with an all-new electric vehicle? Toyota has announced the vehicle. It's called the BZ4X, BZX4X, I think, or the BZ. It stands for Beyond Zero. The vehicle has been announced. There's actually a video of it on the channel when it first was announced. It's going to be coming out halfway through 2022, so look for it in the summer. It's announced, it's coming, and it's also a co-shared development platform with Subaru. They have a version coming out as a Subaru built on the same platform. So it's coming up to 400 kilometers of electric range, 250 miles with two-wheel drive. The all-wheel drive range has not been confirmed. JD, Happy New Year. Zach and family, looking forward to your 2022 reviews and live chats. Well, thank you. So if you're just joining us now, we clicked past 200,000 subs last night. Andrea and I we were watching something on Netflix, and I was looking at it on my phone, and it finally went and happened. So that's good. And thanks to all of you for subscribing. By the way, we got 150 plus people on board right now and 34 thumbs up. If you guys could smash the thumbs up, that'd be great. By the way, I haven't done a live show in 4 weeks at least, and I went and looked and saw that the last one I did had almost 10,000 views. So it's good that people watch these live, but many, many more people watch them after the fact. And you can do that too. You can play it whenever you have a chance. Barrick is here. You weren't first today, Bart. He's usually the first guy on the live chat. Hey, Zach, what is your take on dealer markups or in nearly every new car being sold in the U.S. Reports RAV4s with $25,000. I think that's a adjusted market. Edition 911's going for over $100,000 over sticker. Well, anybody that's willing to pay huge markups over sticker for a brand new car is got to get their head checked. The same people that are going to spend $100,000 on a first edition of a Silverado. And so here's an interesting thing. In Canada, it is against the rules to sell a vehicle over the manufacturer's suggested retail price. Not the case in the United States. So dealers have no cars. There's an unbelievable demand for cars. And if they've got a hot new car sitting on their lot and somebody's dumb enough to pay $25,000 over retail for a RAV4, well, they'll sell it to that dumb person. So I don't know what you do other than just hold on to the car you've got. And the reality is most people have a car they can continue to drive. And it might be worth it to put, maybe if you have an older car, to put $1,000 or $2,000 worth of maintenance and repairs, maybe new brakes and tires and things like that, to limp us along for the next 12 months to get back to more supply in the marketplace, and then the prices should start to stabilize. In Canada, the dealers are doing some sneakies too, though. They're not allowed to charge over MSRP, but what they do is they'll put a roof rack on the top. They'll put ceramic coating on the car. They'll maybe put a hood deflector on, and they'll say, okay, that's a $40,000 car. But with all the extras, it's now $48,000. And you go in there and you say, but I don't want the roof rack or the bug deflector or ceramic coating. They go, well, that's the one we've got. You're going to pay or you're not. And that's what the dealers are doing here. They're getting around it by putting all of these extra add-ons to the car and overinflating the prices. That's what's going on in our market. Jessica's saying hi and Happy New Year. Appreciate that. We also have Jeffrey saying Happy New Year. What is the softest riding commuter I can buy? Softest riding commuter you can buy. Softest riding commuter you can buy. Let me just think about that for a second. Depends how much money you want to spend. Like if you want a really soft car, you would go with a car that has an air suspension. So if you wanted to get a Lincoln Aviator with an air suspension, that is like super soft and very insulated and very removed from the road. So look for cars that have air suspension. Non-premium cars, I find that General Motors cars tend to be very nicely insulated. Their suspensions are well calibrated. And the other thing you want to look for is don't get a car with big wheels. You see the trend is to get a bigger wheel, and the bigger the wheels get, the narrower the tires get. And when you have a narrow tire, that's your first line of cushion for the suspension, is the air in the tire deflects the tire. That's where you get your first line of defense. So you want a smaller tire with a bigger sidewall, because the bigger the tire, the bigger the side of the tire, the more cushion you're going to get. So if you have the budget, look for a car with air suspension. Here's James. Hey, Zach, happy lockdown. Congrats on the growth. Do you have any thoughts on the expansion of charging stations across Canada? Well, there's going to be more pressure to get more charging infrastructure for sure. So we've had some, I would say, half-hearted efforts on behalf of Electrify Canada. Electrify America has many more stations as a per capita basis than we do in Canada. We now have the Petro-Canada network across gasoline stations in Canada. We have a national gas chain here in Canada called Petro-Canada. They have put in 240 and 350 charging infrastructure, DC fast chargers across the country. And then you have private companies that are doing it. The big news that I've noticed is coming from General Motors. General Motors is going to be spending billions of dollars to have a national charging infrastructure put in through the United States and Canada. And I can't remember the number off the top of my head, but as a percentage, the Canadian number of chargers that we're going to be put in is going to be quite sizable. So this is a big push-pull from people who are thinking about getting an electrified vehicle and worry about the charging infrastructure. So it's a kind of a chicken and egg situation, but I think there's going to be much more attention paid to this from governments and from industry, and General Motors has made a big announcement, so good for them. And that's one of the big, listen, General Motors is smart. they know one of the biggest selling features for Tesla owners is the fact they have their supercharging network. So if you're going to take them on for sales supremacy, you better have something to go up against it. And that's what they've decided to do. Hey, Zach, awesome show as always. Can you please explain the battery kilowatt power in relation to horsepower? I'm always confused how the two numbers relate, and where does the torque number enter this? Okay, the kilowatt, so I'm not sure exactly how it works for the size of an electric motor versus the power. So they do have horsepower and torque numbers. I'm not exactly sure how it's related, but unlike regular or a conventional internal combustion engine. So the engine is the power source, right? So say a gasoline engine makes 300 horsepower. So then the transmission and the drive system can then split that power to different wheels. For example, with a front wheel drive or a rear wheel drive car, 100% of that power is going to two wheels. Then you add in a transfer case, and then it can shift up to, say 50% to another set of wheels. So then it's all-wheel drive, but it's still one power source, right? That's the engine. It's the opposite with electric cars. So when you get a base model electric car, it's two-wheel drive. There's one electric motor, typically at the back, that is doing most of the work. That is never connected to the front wheels mechanically. It's only powering the rear wheels. So that electric motor has a number assigned to it, whether it's horsepower and torque. Say it's 200 horsepower. So if you want to get a 300 horsepower version of that car, then you add another electric motor at the front with 100 horsepower more. Combined, it comes to 300 horsepower. So you have to have two different sources to add up to 300 horsepower, where with a gasoline version, you have one source, and that's the motor. Does that make sense? How they come up with the torque split versus the kilowatts out of the electric motor, I'd have to dig into that. I don't have the answer. But it's one of those things that, for example, you could have a 300 horsepower car that's sold in rear-wheel drive and all-wheel drive. Well, it's still 300 horsepower. If you have a two-wheel drive and an all-wheel drive electric car, you always add more power when you add the second power unit. David is saying, looks like GM is seeing improvement on production with more chips. Let's hope Omicron doesn't shut things down. It's interesting. We finally got our mail delivered here on a Sunday. Go figure. Canada Post, that's our letter carriers here in Canada. The guy was like, he's an older guy, he's wearing shorts, and it's cold outside, and he's delivering all these basically packages for people. And it said, how's it going out there? He goes, oh my God, we were shut down for 3 days because of the COVID, and then we have all of these parcels backed up because of Christmas. So this Omicron thing is affecting everybody. Grocery stores don't have stuff on the shelves because the person that stocks the shelves is off sick. Nurses, not enough of them, they're homesick. Doctors, the same thing. The good news is, I'm reading a lot about this wave in the pandemic. It's going to be a very sharp rise up, and we're seeing that now, and we're not finished with it. The peak of this is probably going to be coming at the end of this month, beginning of February, so the next 2 or 3 weeks. And then it should start to tail off as quickly as it came. End of February, beginning of March is when we should start to see the end of this wave. So there's going to be lots of production delays in factories and supply chains and all of that. So if you thought supply chains were disrupted before Christmas, I think it's going to get worse over the next 6 weeks or so. And then hopefully will be better. Now, what's interesting with the chip shortage is it seems to be shifting from victim to victim. So General Motors was certainly hit on the chin. If you didn't know, Toyota took the top spot in overall sales in the United States, beating General Motors, Ford, and Stellantis. And the first time since the 30s that General Motors wasn't the #1 player in the United States. I can't remember who it is. One of the a president of the Americas said, don't get a tattoo just yet, Toyota, because we're coming back. And they will, and the production will come back. And they have a massive amount of demand for vehicles that they haven't been producing that will need to be built up and sold. There's a huge number of people who are looking for new trucks, and they'll sell them all and make a ton of money doing it. Will there be a 2023 Outlander in this year other than the PHEV? Well, typically, Jamal, the next model years start in September. So probably as we go through the year, we're going to see the 2023 models arrive in the fall. But what you're referring to is the PHEV model, and I'm very excited to see this one, the Japanese car of the year, which is no small feat. The numbers coming out of Mitsubishi look very promising. This is not on the North American cycle, but it's more on it's a Japanese cycle. I think they use the same one as they do in Europe. The Mitsubishi Outlander plug-in SUV is capable of 87 kilometers. That's over 50 miles of EV range, and then it reverts to a very efficient hybrid system. So it looks very promising for Mitsubishi. And Mitsubishi's also very good at their pricing. They have had huge sales. I looked at the numbers. It just came out at the beginning of the week. Mitsubishi had massive sales growth in Canada. I don't know the numbers for the United States, but a big, big increase in sales. They have a whole new clientele that's coming into their dealers because their vehicles look so much better, mostly on the back of the Outlander. We really like the product. And we put it in one of our top 10 vehicles of last year, and I really can't wait for that plug-in. I think that might be the one to beat. It might even be better than the RAV4 Prime, so we'll have to wait and see. Ricardo, do you have any negative reason not to recommend Toyota as a car manufacturer? No, I don't have any negative recommendation. A lot of people were surprised when we did our top 10 vehicles of the year that we didn't have a Toyota on the list. We should have been a little clearer in the rules for our top 10 of 2021. These had to be new or substantially updated vehicles that we drove within the year. And the only vehicles that were new from Toyota throughout the calendar year were the new Corolla Cross, subcompact SUV, and the new Tundra. We didn't think that the Corolla Cross was good enough to make it in our top 10 list. It's a good, fun little product, but not top 10 material. And the Toyota Tundra that we drove was a pre-production model. So anybody in Canada that's giving it glowing reviews and giving it their overall vehicle of the year, we drove a pre-production model. These weren't even finished vehicles. So I have to wait until we get the actual production model in our hands before I'm going to give it any kind of recommendation. But there's no reason to do anything but love Toyota. Their vehicles hold amazing value. Overall, they're very reliable and not exciting, but they do a good job. Do you think Sport Chrono is worth it on the Porsche Macan S? If you can afford a Sport Chrono package on a Porsche, get it. The other one you want to make sure you have is the dynamic lighting system. It's worth the money to get the dynamic lighting system. The Sport Chrono package opens up extra fun buttons on the car, so you get Sport, Sport Plus, you get launch control, you also get PASM in that package, Porsche Active Suspension Management. So a lot of nice little features, and it really opens up the parameters. I think also, depends on the car, I'm trying to remember, some vehicles didn't get the paddle shifters, I think with PASM and the Sport Chrono. I haven't looked at it that. Actually, we're getting a Macan in a few weeks, so I'll be able to answer that a little bit better after we've driven the new 2022. If you can afford it, get it, okay? That's my answer. But make sure you have the dynamic lighting system. By the way, interesting little tidbit. Speaking of Porsche and headlamps, we have a Cayenne with LED. That is the Porsche dynamic lighting system with the LED headlamps. And we have an older Cayenne with the Porsche dynamic lighting system, but with the xenon headlamps. Xenon headlamps. And I have to say that I think the xenon lamps are actually better than the LEDs, a different color of light as well. Hey, this is somebody that actually gets the gold star for being the very first super chat of 2022. Very first super chat of 2022. This is from Ben. Happy New Year, Zach. Do you think manufacturers have kept the research and development going during the pandemic, or will new offerings be sparse over the next few years? Absolutely not. Research and development of cars takes years. So when you see a new vehicle that's arriving, say a brand new model that's arriving in 2022, that the engineering, the design, and everything on that vehicle, you can back it up about 5 years. And that never stops. For example, when a new vehicle comes out and it's a brand new model, and say 4 years later they do a facelift and an update on it, as soon as that new model is out, they're already working on the facelifted model. They're all 4-5 years out working on the next vehicles. So no, we're not going to see any issues with pandemic-related products. Everything is in the pipeline, and the car companies now. I spoke to one brand and I said, "What are you working on now?" They said, "Conceptually, we're working on vehicles for the early 2030s. They're putting together what the concepts are going to be, but the vehicles that you'll be driving that are brand new in 5 years, they're starting to work on them now." But thank you for the super chat. Good question. Excellent question. I don't think people, when they see a new vehicle and they go, "Oh, it should have this and it should have that," they had to try and figure out years ago what they thought people would want today. It's a really tough thing to do. And I've also asked pretty much every single engineer or designer that I've had a chance to meet, and I've met dozens or not hundreds of them. I say, when is the last day that you can make a change to a car? Say a car is coming out this month, January of 2022. I said, when can you actually make the very last changes to that car? Whether you wanted to change something about the design or the engineering. They said typically a year before, and they might be able to do very minor things like maybe a slight adjustment to trims, like colors and things on the inside of the car 6 months out. So they rubber stamp the car for production. It's going into production, and it takes a year before it actually comes out to you. So that's how long the timelines are for new vehicles. I read an article recently that General Motors is really trying to speed up this process, and they brought forward the Cadillac Lyriq introduction by 6 months. Now that might not seem like a lot to you and me, but for a car manufacturer to bring the production up by 6 months is a Herculean task. Like, look at Tesla, for example. Where's the Cybertruck? Like, it's been delayed. We saw that with the Model X. We saw that with a lot of Tesla vehicles. Oh, it's coming, it's coming, it's coming. I mean, it's really, really hard to get vehicles to market. It takes a lot of planning. I'll give you another story. Chief engineer of the Audi e-tron, the very first e-tron, the SUV that's been out for a couple of years now. So I was at the launch of that in Abu Dhabi, and I did a radio interview with the guy, and I said, how, from the beginning, when they started to work on it, to when the vehicle was to be introduced, how far off were you for your timelines? He said, we were delayed by 2 months. Think about that. So they planned it 5 years before, and they forecast for it to come out, say, in January 2022, and they hit the date of March. That's incredible, if you ask me. It's amazing, the computing power, the brain power that goes in to actually getting these cars to market. Natalia's here. Nice to see you. Thank you for the super chat. When do you think about the GLK? I've had one for 10 years and not a creak. Quiet as a cocoon. Even when I get the GLC loaner, I can't wait to get back. You know what? I'm with you. I love the GLK. One of the problems with the GLK is that it was just, as you know this because you own one, is the back seat is a little small and the cargo area is a little small. You know what vehicle reminds me a lot of the GLK and the Mercedes family today is the new GLB. It has kind of a squarish design, boxy at the back, but I remember clearly going to the GLK launch. It was on Vancouver Island, and Mercedes was unlike every other brand. They had their product presentation over cocktails before dinner, and they're smart because they know we want to eat, so they get the product presentation out of the way. So we're sitting there having a glass of wine or whatever, and they're going through the product presentation, and then they announced the price of it, and I couldn't believe how well they priced that GLK. An excellent product. I was walking by one with Andrea the other day. We were walking the dog, and there was a GLK. Somebody has one a block away from us. It's parked on the street, and I go, you know what? Always liked that car. And I think that would be a great used one. If you could find one in good shape and being well maintained, it would be one hell of a good little fun used vehicle to have. And probably super cheap now, right? Hello from Moncton, New Brunswick. I think are you having a big nor'easter in the East Coast right now? Big snowstorm in the East Coast? Hope you're having digging out there. Hello from North Vancouver, from overseas, as we say in Vancouver. North Vancouver, you have to go over the water to get there, so it's overseas. Rooftop, I only drive more than 50 miles per week due to working remotely. That said, is it worth going with the future by buying hybrid PHEV or an electric or not? Do batteries wear by age or mileage? Batteries are kept in a try to be kept within a certain parameter, and for longevity we're seeing some brands do a very, very good job of keeping the batteries in their happy place, right? If you look at, for example, Prius will run for years. So if you're only doing 50 miles a week, I would just keep driving the car you've got. There's no point in buying a new car. I mean, how many miles are you doing a year? Barely any. So if you've got a car that's working and running and doing fine, just keep driving it. This is a terrible time to be buying a car right now because of the chip shortage and all that. All right, we got more super chats. I love super chats. I'm all down with super chats. Hassan is here. Happy New Year. What are options for 3-row electric SUVs? I'm curious whether new ones are coming soon other than the Tesla and Rivian, but could not find a lot of info. All right, so you've got the Model X, you've got the Model Y, and there's going to be a 3-row electric SUV from both Kia and Hyundai coming hopefully later this year. So if you're thinking something along the size of a Honda Pilot electric vehicle, there are going to be electric versions of that size. Hyundai and Kia have announced it. Volkswagen is also going to be coming. So they have the new Volkswagen ID Buzz, which is their van, which is going to be coming this year. They're going to release it this year. So that's going to be a people mover that's electrified. So the longer you wait, the better it is for you. So unless you're going to get a Model X, very expensive, or the Rivian, as you mentioned, also very expensive, you might want to wait. So what's going to be happening next year? In 2023, there's going to be more larger electric vehicles. General Motors is coming to market and very excited about the new Equinox that's going to be starting at $30,000 US. I'm guessing it's going to be a 2-wheel drive only at that price. If you want the all-wheel drive, it's going to be more expensive. You want a bigger battery, all that kind of stuff, the price is going to go up. But also announced this past week was they're going to be bringing out the Blazer on an electric platform, and that's going to be bigger. So if you're in the market for what would be replacing a Highlander or a Pilot or something like that, best to wait. Those Korean ones are going to be pretty neat. Excuse me. I love to cough. All right. Gotta figure out where I was again. And how's everybody doing out there? Almost 400 people on right now and 127 thumbs up. You guys can smash that thumbs up. That would be fantastic. And this is the very first live show of 2022. If you're just coming in now, I had computer issues. It's one of the reasons why we haven't done one of these live shows in a while. And also, I lost a lot of the pictures you sent because of that. So if you wanted to get a picture of your vehicle on for the live show, resend it if you don't mind. Zach@motormouth.ca, ZACK@motormouth.ca, or ZACK@motormouth.ca. Okay? And we'll get it through. All right, I'm trying to figure out where I was. Sorry, guys. Here we go. When is the Tucson PHEV review coming? Did your mother-in-law get her car? Funny you should mention that. It was supposed to come this past week, and they said to her, I think it was the 5th or the 6th, she was supposed to get it, and she contacted the dealer, and it's delayed. Shocker of shockers. They expect to get it in 2 weeks, and when they get it, we will do a review. This is going to be one of the first ones in the country, so yeah, we're looking forward to getting it. So obviously, with COVID outbreaks, it's probably affected the port, which is probably one of the reasons why it's delayed. Here's Steve saying congratulations on the 200,000 subscribers. Well done. Thumbs up from your East Van neighbor. Good to have you along. Thank you very much. It's finally, the snow is starting to finally melt here in Vancouver. That's the question we just answered. Hi, Zach. What team do you follow in football? Electric vehicles are becoming very exciting, and futuristic design are great. Tesla is so plain and ugly compared to other electric vehicles. Well, I'm not a huge fan of the design of Teslas. I think they're kind of boring. They have no decoration. They're kind of just a blob to me. You know, eyes in the beauty's in the eye of the beholder. Some people just love them. I think design wise, they don't have anything for me. And for the football team, I grew up in Toronto. So in this house, my son Jack, we live in Vancouver, the closest NFL team to us is Seattle. So he's a big Seahawks fan. I grew up in Toronto. The closest football team were the Buffalo Bills. So I'm a Bills fan. Bills are looking good this year. I had to turn the TV off just before we did the live show. I'm not sure if they won or not, but they were winning when I turned the TV off. And so Jack actually thinks it could be a Buccaneers-Bills Super Bowl this year. We'll have to wait and see. And then in the CFL, it's BC Lions. All right, we have another super chat. I'm all down for that. I'm not going to buy this new computer without super chats. Coffee is on me. Thanks both for the informative content that helped with my car purchase. Wife started following Andrea, and 8-year-old son thinks you're cool since you're a YouTuber. Caden, what is your favorite car? All right, well, thank you. I appreciate that. And hi to everybody in the family. My favorite car is a Porsche 911. That's my favorite car. I bought this when I was 11 years old. This toy car. I knew it was a sickness. It started earlier. But appreciate the kind words. I'm glad we could help. All right. The problem with this program I have is I have to go back from one thing to the other when I do those super chats. But I'm okay with that because I like the super chats. Okay. Hey, Zach, a used Chevy Orlando, a good used car. Seems like this vehicle's price hasn't been overinflated. I would suggest that there are probably better ways to spend your money than buying an Orlando. Nothing more than really a glorified minivan, and not really a great one at that. I mean, if it just comes down to price and you can get a really, really good deal on one and it mechanically checks out, I got no issues with the product. I just think there's probably something better out there, and it will affect your resale when you go to sell it. I mean, there's not a lot. They didn't sell well. There's not a lot of people out there looking for a Chevy Orlando. And so when you go to sell it, you've got to try and convince somebody to buy it. It's a shared platform with a lot of other General Motors products. So there's lots of available powertrain parts and service. It's not going to be hard to get done. So if it checks out mechanically, no issue with it. But I think there's better ways to spend your money. Another super chat from Eric Martin. Are you surprised how much better Hyundai has become? I remember the old junky ponies. Well, listen, this is one of the things that drives me crazy about people who make comments on YouTube. You cannot base your opinion of a model or a brand on what used to happen, right? Like, if that was the case, nobody would be buying Hyundais because they would think they were like the old Pony and Stellars. And they were crappy cars. They were super cheap, but they weren't good cars. But times change. It's amazing how much vehicles change from year, not the individual models, but the brands evolve from year to year. And the reason I bring this up is because I get sick and tired of people commenting saying, oh, Ford makes crappy cars, or General Motors makes crappy cars, or Chrysler makes crappy cars, or Jeeps are terrible. Listen, if you haven't driven a new product from that brand, you have really no place saying that they're junk, right? Because the companies are making massive strides in terms of improving their products, quality, if you look at the quality studies that happen from year to year, the whole industry is moving up, and even the bottom players are coming up in quality. You look at a brand like Chrysler or Stellantis and Dodge and Jeep, they have moved up incredibly high in terms of initial quality over the last couple of years. In fact, they were number one year, so that's a major bonus. So Hyundai and Kia are always near the tops in terms of initial quality and some dependability scores. But a lot of brands that people don't think are reliable or good, they crap all over them. Like General Motors doesn't know how to make a good car. Buick, their sort of quasi-luxury division, has been in some of the most reliable vehicles for like 10 years. Nobody knows that. I know that because I do the research on it. But it's amazing. It just drives me crazy when people say, oh, you know, Hyundai and Kia don't make good cars. Have you driven one of their cars? Oh, I feel better now. All right. Okay. Now I got to go back and find where we were again. But it's okay. I like the super chats. Okay, here we go. Here's another question. The sound is great. Watching from Los Angeles. Cool. Thank you very much. What's a good competitor to a Porsche Macan? Well, there are several flavors of Macan. There's the base model 4-cylinder. That's a shared Volkswagen Group engine. So that's a 4-cylinder turbo. Then you go into the S and the GTS, and that's a 2.9 liter turbo, and that used to be the old Macan GTS engine. So if you want to get something comparable to that, the base model, you could look at, say, an Audi Q5. It doesn't have as much power as the Porsche, but that's an alternative. You could then look at an Audi SQ5 with their 3-liter V6. That's turbocharged, but the Porsche has more power. So just as a comparison, the SQ5 uses a 3-liter turbocharged engine. The Porsche uses a 2.9-liter engine. You would think, okay, the size of the engine is smaller. It's actually the same engine, but the stroke of the engine of the piston is shorter. That's why it goes from 3 liters to 2.9. So it's a higher performance version of the same engine. It gets a lot more power. And my answer to this question is, if you can afford the Porsche and you like the Porsche, buy the Porsche. You will not be disappointed. So an SQ5 would be an alternative for sure. And there's some others as well, like the Genesis 3.5T, the twin turbo. BMW has the M40 engine, which is superb. Mercedes-Benz has the GLC 43. That's the AMG. That's also a V6 turbo. So there's quite a few out there. But none of them are a Porsche, and none of them drive the same as a Porsche. It's just the case. Have you driven the new Q4 e-tron? If yes, are you impressed with it? Haven't. We've been trying to get our hands on one. It's delayed because of all kinds of issues, as we know, with the marketplace right now. As soon as we get our hands on one, we're going to drive it. So this is, just know that this is not the same architecture that's in the e-tron, the GT. The GT and the Taycan are basically sharing the same electrical platform. The Q4 and the ID are sharing the same electrified platform, but it's made into the Audi. If you look at the packages, though, the Audi looks like a really good deal. I like the fact that Audi has regular door handles. What a concept. I like that. And some other things. So I'm really looking forward to get it. It might be the electric vehicle to beat for the price. We'll get into it when we get it. Any thoughts on the Cadillac Lyriq? Well, back to my point earlier about people crapping on General Motors. I'm very excited for what General Motors has planned with the Ultium platform, scalable platform. And Mary Barra was interviewed recently on CNBC. She's the board, the chair and the CEO of the company. and people crapped on her when she said that they're leaders in electrification. And then everybody, all the Tesla fans came out and jumped all over it and said, leaders, you don't sell any. Like they only sold 24 Chevy Bolts in the fourth quarter of 2021. Well, they had a stop sale on them, so of course they only sold 24 of them. What she was referring to, and I kind of agree with, is they have developed a scalable platform to go from a small car all the way to a full-size pickup truck, cargo vans, industrial vans. So this one platform is going to be scalable from $30,000 all the way up to $150,000 heavy-duty pickup trucks. Now that is a major investment in research and development and engineering. Let's see if they can pull it off. We know what happened with the Bolt and the fires and the stop sale and the recall. It's cost them billions of dollars. This is a different battery platform than the Chevy Bolt has. So I'm excited to see what they do with that. And the one thing that I'm most impressed with General Motors is they're going to be focused on price and scale. And that's the one thing that I'm not seeing really from any other brand. Nobody's focusing on price. When General Motors came out with this last 2021 Bolt and they dropped the price by $5,000 in the US and they dropped the price by $8,000 in Canada, I sat up and I was like, wow, that is a major statement. So if they're going to do the same kind of thing with future products, like I mentioned earlier, the Chevy Equinox is coming in 2023. They're saying they're going to have a compact SUV that's fully electric for $30,000. That's something to pay attention to. And then they can scale that up or down to anything that they want to build off the same platform. That is going to be impressive. So back to your question about the Lyriq. I think that's going to be the first real mass-produced vehicle that we're going to get our hands on that's built on this new platform. I can't wait to drive it. I can't wait to see it in person. It looks really cool. Beautiful interior. Let's wait and see. Hopefully they can pull it off. Here's James. Hey, Zach. I bought the 2021 CX-30 in October. I'm already looking at my next step up. Similar but more upscale. Anything standing out with you right now? Thinking a 2023 or 2024 purchase. Listen, if you like the brand and you want something a little bit bigger, just get the CX-5 Turbo, the CX-50 that's coming out this coming year. I think that's a wonderful product. If you want something a little bit bigger, you can still get the turbo engine and all that. Plus, when you get the larger CX-5 or the CX-50, you get independent rear suspension. With your car, you don't get that. What are your thoughts on the Kia Sorento? I think the Kia Sorento is fantastic. My only issue with it is the fact that on the higher versions of the turbo gasoline version, you lose a second row bench seat. You have to get bucket seats. And the same thing with the plug-in version. If you get the PHEV, there's no bench seat in the second row. So what I want you to do, Con, is I want you to go onto the channel and type in Sorento into the search bar, and you'll find our videos. We did one on the regular gas version. That was just over a year ago. And then we recently just did the PHEV version. So that was the same criticism we had of both. The trims that most people are going to buy, it's not a 7-seater, it's a 6-seater. It's a weird design choice that they made. So, but anyway, there you go. I'm thinking about leasing an X3 versus buying due to crazy prices. Would you agree that it's better to lease versus buy in order to avoid some of those over MSRP prices? Well, I'm not sure why you would think it would be different, because what you do is you settle on a sale price and then your lease is based off that. We'll pick a round number like $50,000. Say you get a BMW X3 and you negotiate. This is one of the things I always say to people. Don't tell them you want to lease the vehicle. Negotiate the price of the car first, and then the lease is based off that. So they're going to get, if you think they're going to charge over MSRP because they're selling it to you outright, trust me, they're doing the exact same thing on the lease. That's just the way it is. So it's just not a great time to be buying a car. If you don't need to, then just keep on driving the car you've got. But they will charge you, the lease is based off the sale price. That's basically how it works. Jerry saying, welcome back, Zach. You were missed. Happy New Year. Well, yeah, it was a bit frustrating. The computer died. Then we had some Christmas events to go to. Then it was Christmas and New Year's. And then Andrea said, listen, just go back after the New Year. And it's good that everyone's come back, and we appreciate that. Hey, Zach, what's your opinion about rust proofing on electric cars or hybrids? Should I do it? I live in Quebec. Is it true that companies will void warranty because of it? Listen, this is something that I would suggest you probably do a little bit more research on. There's probably like a Reddit forum on this. The best rust proofing are from two companies in Canada, and they're basically the same thing. Rust Check and Crown. Rust Check, Crown Protection, and Rust Check and Crown. Those are the two ones. Basically, they squirt this lubricant. It's really a lubricant into the body panels of the car, and then it displaces the water. And the water is what activates with the salt to cause rust. Now, what they've done traditionally is drill holes in the car and then squirt it inside the cavities where rust would typically form. But if that is going to void the warranty and you want to still get the same kind of protection, you can do it yourself. Actually, you can go to Canadian Tire and buy big cans of Rust Check. They sell it at the store. And then you can just spray along the bottoms of the doors, along the bottom of the trunk lid where it always rusts, inside the wheel wells. You can climb underneath the car and spray underneath the rocker panels. Just buy a bunch of them and spray it yourself if you're worried about voiding the warranty. Putting the stuff on the car won't void the warranty. From what I understand, it's the putting the holes in is what they're worried about. So if you can get around that by just buying it yourself, that's something to consider. I would defer to people who live in a rustier part of the world. We don't have that issue here in British Columbia. We do get snow. We've had snow for the last couple of weeks, but it'll all be gone by the end of the week, and then we're back to our soggy, rainy weather. Really ask people who live in Quebec and Ontario. That's where it's an issue. Julie, congrats on the 200,000 subs. We'll appreciate that. Thank you very much. Electric cars are overpriced and out of reach in price for regular people. Do you think they will come out with affordable electric cars? Well, I just kind of touched on that on my General Motors story, but I think that, yes, there's going to be pressure to bring out more mainstream cars. I agree with you. I think most electric cars are about $10,000 more expensive than they should be, not than they should be, than they should be to reach mass appeal. Electric cars today are really for upper middle class and people with a higher disposable income. For working class people who need just good transportation, electric car isn't in their future for quite a while. And until we can get vehicles that appeal to most people, then it's going to be a problem. And I'm not talking about little hatchbacks. I mean, to make a little hatchback car and sell it for $35,000, like Chevrolet did with the Bolt, that's great. But people want, a compact or a small SUV. That's what we need. Happy New Year. American luxury compact to midsize SUVs always seem to get a bad rep. When compared to other Lux SUVs, they always seem to rank lower. Cadillac XT4, 5 Lincolns, and Buicks. Thoughts? I really don't know what you're saying there. Oh, I see what you're saying. American luxury versus other products. Yes, I would agree with that. There's a perception. I talked about that just a moment ago. It's interesting because we did some top 5. We did our top 5 compact SUVs and our top 5 compact luxury SUVs. And Andrea and I are going to start doing more of these as we go through the months. And we were talking about the subcompact SUVs, and the Cadillac XT4 actually popped into mind. And we were both agreed that we think it's actually a really good product for the price, and they do a good job. So yeah, I think they do have comparable products. But a lot of people, back to the perception thing again, just don't think about them. What is your opinion of the X2 M35? It really comes down to whether you like the shape. Like, it really, to me, is just more like a hatchback than it is like a crossover vehicle. So if you're not sure what an X2 is, it's the BMW X1, their small SUV, and they chopped the roof and made it sportier looking. So the that engine is fantastic. I mean, there's no shortage of power with that, and it really is a load of fun to drive. I just think personally it's a bit expensive for what it is? And do you really want to compromise space in what is already a small vehicle? You can get the same engine in the X1, which might be more practical, but if you like the shape of the X2, I get it. Another one to consider, if you haven't considered this, is look at the Mini Countryman John Cooper Works, okay? They're both built on the same platform, or all three of them are. The X1, the X2, and the Mini Countryman, they're all sharing the same platform, and the John Cooper Works Countryman is fantastic. What a fabulous, fun vehicle to drive. Loads of power, practical, and Mini, if you're not aware, was in the, Mini as a brand went into the above average quality from Consumer Reports recently. And a lot of people won't believe that, but if you look up Mini and Consumer Reports, they jumped in to the above average. So there you go. I think we have some super chats to get to. Sorry, everyone. This one is from Ahmed, no question, but thank you very much for the super chat. Next, we go down to our good pal Jerome from Quebec. Jerome might be able to answer the question about rust proofing in Quebec. He's a Quebecer and might know about that. Okay, I'm late. Great to see you back. Subscribe or sip. Don't have a beer. I have my water. But this is true. I take a sip, you subscribe. Those are for people maybe watching this after the fact. This one is from Nick. Hey, Zach, big fan. Been watching you for over 10 years. Wow, thank you very much. Huge Hyundai fan. Learned to drive in a pony. And if you had the choice, Tucson hybrid or Genesis GV70 all day, I take the GV70. I mean, the Tucson hybrid's great. Don't get me wrong. I think it's wonderful. It won our vehicle of the year of the best vehicles we drove in 2021. But it's not a GV70. There's the reason that we put the Tucson as number one is it's available with 3 powertrains: the gas, the hybrid, or the plug-in. It's an accessible price point. It's a large vehicle, nicely designed on the outside and the inside. It's just a good all-rounder. But when you start looking at what appeals to me personally, it would be GV70. But yeah, same thing. Oh, it's the question about the Macan earlier. If you can afford the Macan, get the Macan. If you can afford the GV70, get the GV70. But if it's about saving fuel and having less impact on the environment, then the hybrid is great. There's no problem with it. Oh, I missed Charlottetown Spud. Oh, I answered that one already. Never mind. I'm just figuring out where the hell I was. Talk amongst yourselves. I'll be right there. Hi, Zach. When you travel to the U.S. to review vehicles, do the manufacturers give the Canadian journalists Canadian spec cars, or is it all U.S. specs? It really depends on the car company. I would suggest that it's probably 80% of the time they're US spec cars. But what they try to do is get us cars that are as close to the Canadian spec, and they will point out and say, you're driving a US spec car, just keep in mind that the Canadian version will have this or won't have that. I mean, we're smart enough to figure that out, but the essence of the car is the same. Some brands will actually go through the effort of having Canadian spec cars at a U.S. event. So typically what happens with these U.S. programs is they have what are called waves of journalists. So we go on what's called the Canadian wave, or often we would have the NAFTA wave. So we would often go with the Mexican journalists. And those guys are fun. I got to say, we've gotten to know quite a few of the Mexican journalists, and they're always fun to hang out with. And they're kind of like Canadians in a certain way where we're not American, and we have our own ideas, and we like to have more fun. And it's funny because we go on a lot of these programs, and the people who actually put the programs together go, "Oh, we always love the Canadian program. You're always so polite, and you always have so much fun." So that's kind of our reputation. And the Mexican guys like to have fun too. Yes, they will try to get us as close to the Canadian spec as possible. Some brands will actually bring Canadian cars to the program, and the reason they have it in the US is typically at this time of year it's because of the weather. But a good question. Okay, where were we again? In your opinion, which car brands are getting better versus getting worse? I would suggest that Nissan is one brand that's turned a corner. If you had asked me a year ago, a year and a half ago, I would say, oh boy, this is a brand that's in trouble. And they were. But they're turning things around. They have the new Sentra, which is fantastic. By the way, if you're looking for a fun little sedan with a manual transmission, the Sentra is it. It's a great little car. And then they came out with the Rogue, which was fantastic. I think they did a great job with the Rogue. Then they came out with the Pathfinder, mostly good. There's some issues we think with the suspension is much too stiff, and they could certainly address that. And then they came out with the new Frontier, which really impressed us. So that's a brand that I think has started to turn the corner. They have not, unfortunately, started to turn the corner on the Infiniti side. We are getting the QX60 not this week but next week, so we'll get a chance to drive that. That's the one that's based on the same platform as the Pathfinder. But they got a lot of work to do on the Infiniti side. So that's one brand I think is getting better. Hello from Sweden. Hey, Herr Mordu. I've been to Sweden. I know I don't say it with a good accent, but hey, Herr Mordu is hi, how are you, from what I remember. Yeah, that's about it. Tuck is thanks, and Little Grand is little bit, from what I remember. There, Fitte Fou, I always thought was funny. Fitte Fou, I always thought sounded funny, but it just means 77. There is this discussion here that is far too early for EVs. During the first blizzard and minus 12 degrees centigrade here in the western part of Sweden, EVs had a huge problem. Well, listen, Robert, I'm with you. It's funny because his name there is Robert for you. But Robert, I'm with you. I think for many applications, EVs are going to be just fine. But there's going to be extreme situations in northern climates where it's not going to be absolutely perfect. And I would put northern Canada and Scandinavian countries on that list. I've been up to Lapland, where they do all the cold weather testing for the European car brands. We were up there with Volkswagen. That was a lot of fun. Beautiful. It's interesting. Going to Sweden is a lot like northern Ontario. It looks very similar. When you go to northern Sweden, you think you're in Canada. Very similar looking, and also very cold. But yeah, it's going to be interesting to watch. All of these mandates that are coming down, like no internal combustion engines by 2030, everything's going to be like, it's easy to say that. It's easy to say that. It's not going to be so simple. I would rather governments say, listen, by 2027 or 2030, all vehicles that are for sale need to be hybridized. Okay, that's something car companies could implement rather speedily and would have a massive improvement on carbon emissions across the world, right? So instead of having 2 or 3% of people buying pure electric cars, you have 40, 50, 60% of the population using 20, 30, 40% less fuel. That makes more sense to me. And to your part of the world and to our part of the world, when the temperature goes down, we had a cold snap here in Vancouver. Never mind minus 12 in Sweden. In Vancouver, it was minus 15 degrees 2 weeks ago. That's damn cold. And there were stories about a lot of Tesla cars that had just had their new software update. We're not getting any heat. And in parts of Alberta, last week it was minus 40 degrees. And with the wind chill, it was minus 50 degrees. That's Celsius, friends. So there you go. So yeah, we'll have to wait and see. And maybe you're going to get people holding on to their old Volvos and things like that, the older ones, as these mandates come in. Here's another one from Sweden, right behind you there. Hey, Herr Mordu. I know I don't say it with a good accent. Happy New Year to you all. Thank you very much. What do you think about the Hyundai Tucson hybrid sold out and you can't order one? Well, this is a big problem we're hearing with everybody. It's like, yeah, it's nice. I'd love to have a RAV4 Prime. Yeah, we're putting you on the never plan. You're never getting it, or you're getting it in 3 years. So my advice to anybody is most people have a car that still works. Most people have a car that is going to continue to run if you maintain it. Order the car you want. If you want a Tucson, as soon as you want a Tucson hybrid, as soon as you're available, keep talking to the dealer. When one is available to order, order it and wait for it. That's my advice. Any car that you're wanting right now is order it and wait for it to come. And if it's not available to order, find out when it is and then get on the list. That's probably the best advice. And keep driving the car that's continuing to work. Here's another super chat. Hello, just across the border in Seattle. Hey, hey, hey. What's going on with the Seahawks this year? Before we go, this is Jerome getting on the rust proofing. I have to check it out again, but I think it's illegal in Quebec to cancel warranty for rust protection. An absolute must-do if you want to keep your car's value for 10 plus years. So there you go. That's from somebody in, there you go. Oh, this is from the watch guy. Are you a watch guy? Just saw the screensaver. Yes, I'm a watch guy. I'm wearing my a vintage Tudor Submariner on a navy, not navy, army green Perlon strap. I just got the strap this morning, actually. There you go. That's why it's on this watch. We're all out of time. We have a record number of people on the live chat during the live portion. Almost 500 people on the live chat. We're at 497. If we get 3 more people on, we'll have hit 500. That would be a new milestone for the live chat. And we get so many people that watch this live chat after the fact. That's also good. So thanks to everybody that tuned in. Don't forget CanadaDrives.ca if you're looking for a used car, and CarCostCanada.com if you're looking for a new car. Big sponsors of the channel. We almost got to 500. 499. Let's see if we can do it. We can get some more thumbs up too. We're at 265 thumbs up. That'd be great if we could get some more thumbs up, and we'll see if we get one more person to come online to get us to 500. We're at 499. It's so exciting. It doesn't look like it. Anyway, thanks to everybody who tuned in. We'll be back next Sunday at the same time. So long as the computer works, we'll be here doing the live show. So enjoy the rest of your weekend. Enjoy time with your family, and we'll see you next week. Oh, what's coming up this week? Oh, there's a special video tomorrow. We hit 200,000 subs. Special video tomorrow. Stay tuned for that. Talk to you then. Bye now.